So this is the Enterprise Committee meeting, and we'll be first getting a report from the monthly project update as far as support, and then from ML&P. And I'm Jennifer Johnston.
Tom Steele.
Dick Trainee.
And why don't we just go through everybody?
Lon, you want to start?
I'm Lon Elliott, CH2 Hill.
Todd Cole, Support Engineer.
Steve Rebufo, Deputy Port Director.
And George McKeown, Municipal Manager.
And we might as well just keep going.
Robert Owens with the Municipal Law Department.
Jim Trent, General Manager, ML&P.
Eugene Orion, ML&P.
Doug Plater, CH2 Hill.
Okay, Madam Chair, this is our second monthly briefing for the Port Project to the Enterprise Committee.
And Ms. Kowalski just joined us.
And
Late again.
just as a refresher, because I know we have a couple of new members on the committee, we had agreed on a format for the port to basically present from, to make it easier for everybody to track from meeting to meeting where we've been and where we're going. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Todd, and Todd Coles, the port engineer. He'll go ahead and do the briefing. If there's any questions, then the appropriate person will answer.
Okay, thank you. So just a refresher, the period that this update covers is from the last time we met, March 25th to May 8th. I think we actually met on the 27th, but a couple extra days there. The task orders that have been approved so far, and currently we only have CH2 Hill under contract as the project management consultant. We approved task order number 2, which is the project management office task order for contract year 1. That was just approved on May 1st. We've attached a summary of the scope of services as page 2 and 3 of the report here, and I'll just spend a little bit of time and go through that now. The first section just covers the staffing of the project management office. There's a number of 4 core team members that are full-time at the project management office. So they're captured on the task order, as well as some part-time support positions to assist the core team. Those part-time positions are not physically located at the project management office. By the way, the project management office is located at the port, at the actually the south end of the original transit shed building, which is just the opposite end of the building that we're in as the port admin. So it's actually the space that the original port admin offices were located in. The second section of this task order summary covers really the scope, the meat of what the project management office is all about. And it essentially is to implement and maintain the project management plan, which we spoke of at the last update. That was our first task order, to develop the project management plan. And I won't go through every item here, but the detail of the implementation of that plan is listed. The task order also covers reimbursable expenses that are required for establishing and maintaining the project management office. Those are listed in section 3. In section 4, we have identified as-needed services required to support the project management office. Those actually are, we've again captured the scope, schedule, and budget for those in the task order, but on an as-needed basis, Lon and I, Lon is the project manager for CH, will agree to the expenditure of those funds as necessary. Those include, for example, the IT setup for the project management office, some additional support staff from the task leads that were identified in the proposal, such as environmental managers or port planners. Those are as-needed efforts that would otherwise not be captured under future task orders. Of course, we will have expenditures for those personalities on future task orders, but this is just an as-needed budget item. We've also captured project advisors such as the principal in charge for CH2 Hill, stakeholder manager, customer liaison, other strategic advisors that were identified in the proposal as perhaps being needed to call upon from time to time. And then we've also captured as needed reimbursable travel expenses for some of the key roles who may be needed to travel within this first year to support the project management office. Section 5 just provides the compensation detail, how we've structured the task order. For example, the project management office labor, that which we captured in Section 1 there, that's a lump sum amount based on the hours duration that the project management office encompasses for this first year. The reimbursable expenses for supporting and maintaining the PMO are actual expenses, and we've established a not to exceed amount for that. As needed services labor, those are based on the unit rates we negotiated on the master service agreement. We've captured a not to exceed amount on those. For the as needed reimbursable travel expenses, actual expenses with a established not to exceed amount. So the total value of this task order is about $2.4 million. We've detailed the schedule below in Section 6. It started on May 1st when the task order was executed. It runs through the first contract year, which is March 2nd of 2015, and we've detailed when the core team members will be fully mobilized on or before. And then one other term that we captured on this task order was with regards to ownership of equipment, vehicles, furnishings, etc., that are purchased with contract funds. Those are the property of the municipality and will be inventoried as such. So that's the detail associated with the task order. Flipping back to page 1, now that the PMO is fully established, we have some future task orders under development. The first one being the concept design study that we intend to perform this year. That will be task order 3. Task order 4 will be a pile test work plan and NEPA scoping for permitting and environmental planning compliance. That will be another task order that will be executed this year, we anticipate, and that's under development as task order 4. There haven't been any scope changes. The only schedule change, we did list task order 1 schedule just as a refresher here. Again, that period of performance ends in June, but task order 2, as I've said, runs through the remainder of contract year 1. We've provided a budget detail on page 4. This format shows the appropriated funds for the project, the obligations essentially to those. Right now we only have the CH2M Hill task orders that have been executed as obligations, and those are shown under the contract amount figure. We've expended about $25,000 of those towards task order 1, and the balance is shown. So for now, the unobligated appropriations are shown there as about $127.7 million in that range. There haven't been any change requests. There aren't any issues identified so far. And just as a reminder, we've shown the funding sources where that $130 million of appropriations comes from, a combination of the state grants and bonds, and then some port funds as well. Any questions?
I have a comment, but I'll go after.
Yeah, my question was, are we going to do any of the pile improvements this year, or will that be later on? I know there's a
we do pile improvements at the port on our existing infrastructure, so we do have sleeve repairs ongoing down there.
Okay.
The pile test plan that we're speaking of here is prospective. Once we have the concept for the port expansion defined, we can then, our intent is to perform a test program where we drive piling that would be the size and in the areas that we anticipate to construct in to better refine our structural geotechnical design parameters for the future design.
But also to assist us in our environmental permitting. Because as you know, one of the problems that we had in the past was the migration of whales back and forth every day, and they had to stop everything. So what we're looking at is if this test is not as intrusive. In other words, piling these type of piles, pile driving these type of piles into the ground is not as intrusive as the sheet piles that we were driving, then that might help us in a mitigation effort as far as the construction project process itself. So that's what we're hopeful of.
Can we do that well into the fall? I mean, seasonally, what is our limitation?
We don't believe that we'll actually be installing the test piles until next season because we need the bulk of this year to define the concept for the project. So we don't get too far ahead of ourselves and spend money somewhere where it might not be valuable to gather that information. We're not anticipating actually installing test piles this season. That would be next season.
Thinking as far as the EIS, the timeliness of that, because that will take a full another year, wouldn't it?
Well, and part of the scope of Task Order 4 will be to start establishing and planning that environmental component. So you start to interface with regulators, you start defining schedules and review periods and what information will be valuable in that. So it should come together well for actually executing the pile test and the acoustic monitoring program next season.
Well, one of the good things, about where we are right now is that we've got so much data available to us from all of the previous work that was done, but also all of the research that we had to do when we shut everybody off to try to find out what the problems were down there. So we did an awful lot of research. We did more borings and everything else. So we have a pretty good idea, as to what the soils and everything are like down there. So that is something that won't have to be redone because we got the data. So that will help us.
And if I remember correctly, actually, we were able to benefit some from the Cabada research as far as the whales.
Well, we anticipate to be able to do that. And in
Yeah.
fact, HDR, who's on our team, was key in that work for Cabada, so we'll really benefit from that expertise.
I have a couple comments. First, I love the layout of this. It's very concise, very clear. Kudos. It was very well presented, and I can relate to this. Love the detail. Now, my second comment. Was this the first it was presented? Did I miss it in my inbox? Did we get this email to us ahead of time?
No, I just brought it today.
That's okay. I would, if we could in the future, just at least the day before.
Okay.
Because if we look at the, scope of Task Order 2, to sit here as you're talking and read it, I feel like I'm either going to tune you out to read it, or I'm going to miss something.
Okay.
So that would be great, just the day before.
Sure.
But off topic, just a tiny bit. Can you tell us what the status of the dredging is right now, or what's going on with the current customers? And
Sure, I think Steve can speak better to that.
In late April, the what's called the hopper dredge that belongs to Manson Construction as part of the course contract to do the annual maintenance dredging arrived on site. You recall that they brought up one of their clamshells early to help get out in front of the time between bringing that hopper dredge up and the immediate need to clear out portions of terminal number 3. Terminal number 3 has been in very good shape since that clamshell showed up, and we haven't had an incident with respect to delays in any of TOTE's arrival times, departure times, or work as a consequence of that. So where we stand right now is they're preparing to take the clamshell back because there's no longer a need for it now. The hopper dredge is here, although we have asked them to give some consideration to making something like that available next year should we find ourselves in the same predicament, and they're working on that as well. But the hopper dredge is sufficient to keep on top of what infill we get over the summer, and their contract runs through the end of October. So I'm very confident that we'll be in excellent shape all summer long, and through their departure, if we have another winter as warm as this, we did that little emergency cleaning with the tugboats that worked very well. It was too bad that we had to wait for a problem to even test it, but now that we know what they can do, we can get out in front of anything that we see becoming a potential problem and help ourselves a little sooner if it's necessary.
Because was it the clamshell digger that it cost about $3 million?
Two.
Oh, sorry for the extra $1 million.
No worries.
Does that dredge normally stay up here all summer long?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a May to October performance period.
Do they also work on the cut, or is it just to
Well,
maintain the?
they are going to also work on I'm
The narrow.
assuming you mean the nap channel.
Yeah.
Yes. But also, coming back this year is the Essayons, the Corps' big dredge that they brought up last summer to get that project started. They're coming back this summer, I think the end of May, to finish. Interestingly, though, they found out that even at the depth that they left it when they departed last year, they've noticed it's deeper yet because they got to a point where it's beginning to even scour now.
Scour, so.
Yeah, so that was good to see.
If I may just follow on in terms of the dock face, was it construction on the north end? Did it contribute to the sedimentation there, or have we always had that sedimentation problem?
Are we talking about the Terminal 3 area?
Whatever in the north area.
Well, yeah, so the short answer is, the short answer is, we've always had a problem. The short answer also is that they've always come in every year about the same time and they've dredged it. But when we stopped the construction, we had a gap. We put, the north end is out further, and you've got the existing, the old dock in closer.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, what's happening is we're finding that some of that siltation is actually coming in, and that's what they had to deal with. Every year at the same time, usually, we have an issue. This time, it came earlier because of weather, but it also came into an area closer than what would normally have been expected. Okay.
I would think it would come along
Yeah.
that north
But
part.
but when this is all
drop
said
it
and
down.
done, when the construction's all said and done, it'll be out further, it'll be in a little more of a current, it'll be a lot deeper, it'll be at a 45-foot depth, and the scouring will be a lot better, so we'll hopefully go right through it, but we hope.
And we made our own little man-made eddy.
Yeah.
When is the Kincaid Shoal study supposed to be finished?
Well, don't they have a
The Kinnicarn Shoal.
Yeah.
The Point McKenzie
Oh,
Shoal?
yeah,
or
that's it,
the-
that's
the
it.
Point McKenzie Shoal.
They have a
Uh,
preliminary, right?
A feasibility study was all that was done to analyze to see what kind of a problem that actually created. Feasibility study is finished. The results of it were that from the Corps' perspective, and this was already shared with the ocean carriers, is that it's receding a little bit. It's not out as far as it used to be. So that was kind of telling. But then Cook Inlet is a fickle environment,
Right.
and changes come and go. There was quite a bit of money left from the contributions that were made to do the study, and with those dollars remaining, the agreement was made to survey that area more often than has been done in the past. It used to be surveyed every 5 years. I think we're going to survey it every 2 years. One of the litmus tests that the Corps puts on these things is how much of a delay to traffic does a shoaling incident cause. And they don't get alarmed until that number is 30 minutes or greater. But they've analyzed all of the tracks that were over the last 5 years since we started identifying this thing as a problem. They've analyzed all of those. There's a database that have them collected. And even in the worst of the winter, in the winds and the ice, the greatest delay in arrival as a consequence of having to go around that little shoal was 90 seconds.
Huh.
So there really wasn't much of a problem to justify the expense it would take to open that area up.
Because
So-
I also thought they were going to be doing some modeling, just to sort of see what
What
you're
was
saying.
causing it?
Yeah, what was causing it.
I think after looking at all the data, going into that expense was, they didn't find it necessary to do it. Because again, it's not a problem that has to be fixed, and it's not one that, that needs to be analyzed to the point of finding a cause. But if we're going out there and surveying more frequently, and things begin to get worse again, then certainly they'll undertake a lot more rigorous analysis than they've done to date.
I have to say my concern with that is no matter how you feel about Cabada, is what will happen when we start building a bridge.
Sure.
And, so that's why I was really interested in the modeling, because I would think that would have to be taken into account as far as design of the body.
Well, I know there's been some early
They
modeling.
did modeling for the bridge, separate, okay? They did modeling for the bridge, and that also is in the environmental document. What we were concerned about was the dock at Point McKenzie
Right.
causing the problem downstream.
Right.
That's what we were concerned about.
Yeah. But I mean,
because-
they both have the same effect.
Well,
or-
so the effect that you would have is if in fact you can prove that Point McKenzie dock is causing some of the problem,
Right.
and if there is any type of causation as a result of the bridge, the two of those together, may be a bigger factor than it is right
Yeah,
now.
I hope we keep sort of our eyes on this, because
I mean, one of the big things that came out of all the modeling analysis that they did down in Vicksburg, that the Corps did,
Right.
was to determine how much or how little causeway you should have, because that'll have an effect on what the current speed is coming back on the ebb tide, and also how to angle the bridge so
Yeah.
that you're not affecting
Right.
the currents adversely. So, as I understand it, how they're going to angle the bridge in the design and how big the causeways are have all been adjusted based on what those analyses have told them to do.
Did you have any more? You did? No. The only, so as far as the as-needed reimbursable expenses, are we charging rent there at the port, or, I just thought
We figured it's probably not a good idea to charge them because they just charge us
They
back.
just
So
charge us
it
back.
seemed like a waste of money.
and so
Yeah.
that's, I wanted to know.
Yeah, no, we're not charging for the
And IT,
space.
is it outsourced IT? Do we participate?
There's a combination. CH has IT expenditures for their network equipment. We are, and these will be reported in the future as other expenditures. We do have some of our own expenses in the cabling to get the cabling run to the space. Where we've got actually a better arrangement with ACS than CH does, so we see some price savings there.
Because I think of furniture, didn't we have a whole bunch of furniture?
We do, and we've surveyed that and are moving it in now.
We took them shopping.
Yeah, we went furniture shopping in the trailers and got the entire list, so we're good.
That's, just look at those pennies.
Yep. Not all the chairs look that healthy, so we may have to buy a couple new chairs.
We don't want to have to do any extra chiropractic services.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, any other questions? No, very good.
Before they go, there's one item that's not associated with construction, but I need to make you aware of. As you all know, the port is not only responsible for the port itself, but for over the years, somehow or another, they got saddled with responsible for the boat launch, the private boat launch
Right.
area. So obviously, your set netters, an awful lot of fishermen and everybody else like to use that, and this is getting into the fishing season. One of the problems that we have every single year is that there's a lot of buildup that occurs. And right now, they're able to use it, but they can only use it at high tide for the most part, depending on the size of the boat. So what we have to do is wait for the negative tides, the real strong negative tides, so that they can go in there with bulldozers and push everything out as far as you can get it. And that lasts for a year. And so they're in the process right now of getting a contractor in there to go ahead and do that. So you may hear from some of the set netters that there's a concern about being able to get out there. They can get out there at high tide. As soon as we get it all pushed back, they'll be able to get out there at all tides.
Well, you have almost a month,
Yeah.
don't you, before they
It's a
start?
run us charge.
June
Who's
13th.
gonna run us to push the dirt out?
I don't know what it costs the port. They do it every year.
And
Yeah,
then
we've got a
disperse.
purchase order in with purchasing office. It's around $40,000 to do that, and
But I just wanted to make you aware of it, just in case you hear something.
I was thinking it's a good thing the Corps is hanging around with their dredge. Just have them tie up over there and they'll do it on their off hour.
Just exploratory work?
It's actually easier with the bulldozers.
it should be that easy.
I do have one other question. As far as the stakeholder manager and the customer liaison, I mean, I know that there's, some of the stakeholders are just us and others, but, and customers, you're just looking at Tote and Verizon. I mean, do we?
Well, I
that
think,
would be
yes,
a process.
customers truly are the port customers
Right.
that would be impacted by the project, and stakeholders tend to be a larger net of neighboring community council. I mean, it's
Yeah.
customers who may not be impacted by the project, it's, yeah, the roles for those folks are to help us through the coordination, the concept design, that'll all be captured in a future task order.
And the
But,
vetting.
yeah, public comments required through the NEPA process, things of that nature.
Well, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Okay, guys.
We need to be cautious. Anyway, I was going to say something. I figured. Close your mouth. So you ready to power this thing up?
And Eugene, and any extras you might just leave there.
Pretty quick.
So, Madam Chair, joining you from MLMP is Jim Trent, the General Manager, and Dean Ori, the Project Manager. The contract project manager was unable to be here today, but he will be here routinely in the meetings.
Great.
You're going to see a little difference in the format, but you're going to see the same information. And one of the reasons this is a little bit different is, as we briefed you some time ago, the way that the port project works is on task orders. This right here basically works a little bit differently in that it's a all combined project. So you have a company that's doing the design, they're also responsible for the contracting, etc., the construction. And then we have two project managers. We have our internal project manager, and then we have an outside project manager that manages that project. And so where it's not done on a task order, it's done on periodic payments. So you have a schedule, and the schedule is extensive. It is, the latest copy I have is about this big, it's about this thick, and it's all filled up, and it tells you every single thing that has to be accomplished, and it has you the time frame. So this is done more on payments as through a monthly payment process, as opposed to a task order payment. Okay, so that's why it's going to be laid out a little bit differently, but all the information is there. So with that, Jim, I guess I'll turn it over to Eugene.
Let me say a word or two first,
You bet.
please. Madam Chairman, committee members, this is a very exciting project, not only for me personally, but for MLNP. It is simply going to be the most energy efficient project in the Northern Hemisphere. The Northern Hemisphere is a large place. People will come from all over to see this project when it's operating because it is simply efficient design. It will be the most efficient project there is in the Northern Hemisphere today. That's an important statement to make. At this point in time, we have a budget of $300 million round figure. We are on budget and ahead of schedule. I built a number of these projects across the United States and Pacific Rim, and the telltale sign at the beginning is how is the project managed. We've got great people not only on our staff, including Mr. Ori, but the general contractor himself is world-renowned for doing these kinds of things. If you saw our groundbreaking a week or so ago, you notice there's virtually nothing out there. Go today. And the ground is broken up. We're pouring foundations out there today. The reason the contractor couldn't be here, we told him to stay on the site and keep building the project. We'll talk about him here. But anytime he's away from the project, we don't have his expertise there. So he's not here today because I told him to keep building the project. We want this thing to come online so that these lights come on without interruption. When you go home tonight, think about the fact you turn your switch on because we're building another project to make sure that happens without interruption. Having said that, introduction, yes ma'am, you wanted to say something?
I was just gonna chuckle. I don't get my power from MLNP.
Oh, I'm sorry, you have to leave the room then.
Well, as of right now. I live out in Chiquia.
Ma'am,
What qualifies it to be the most efficient? I mean, how
the
does,
selection of equipment and the fact that we've designed the project to be energy efficient using natural gas, which as you probably know, is the single most cleanest fuel there is around today.
but I mean, your natural gas turbines are being used all over the country now.
Well, that is true, but the energy efficiency comes from tuning the engine specifically to new parameters. And the GE product is world-renowned. If you've flown on an airplane, that's what powers you,
Yeah.
power generation plants. But the combination of the GE technology plus our own inventiveness in designing a simple carburation system that maximizes its efficiency is going to make this specifically the single most efficient project in the Northern Hemisphere.
And then the waste heat goes to heating the water for AWP.
That's also true. It's called typically a CHP, Cooling, Heating, and Power Project. And the combination of the two add to the energy efficiency parameters. This is a good project. We're excited about it. Those of us who love engines can't wait for this damn thing to start up. Having
You're right, I
said-
drove by there yesterday, it's completely torn up. You guys are doing a good job on the
Oh, sir, we
ground.
don't call that torn up. We call it construction in
You're
progress.
working on it,
Progress
it was
is being
different than the day we cut the dirt originally.
Yes, sir, but not torn up. It's construction in progress. That's exciting for us. With that in mind, I'm going to ask Mr. Roy to give you the details, dollars and cents, time frame of what we're doing out there.
Thank you, Mr. Trent, Madam Chair, Assembly members. That was a great introduction to the goal of getting this project online, on time, and on schedule. Currently, we are under budget and on schedule. That's the main points I want to make today. But for those that haven't been paying attention, we have the EPC contract, that all risk on the contractor to engineer, procure, and construct, approved by the Assembly body last fall, executed in December, and currently we are heavily into E and P activities, engineering and procure. We, meaning the contractor. We are overseeing them, checking them, adjusting them, making sure they're conforming to the specs that were bid against at the time. Still under item 1, work to date, they have mobilized a site. We've gotten significantly down the road with engineering and procurement of major activities, and they are now in beginning construction as of last week. They're going huckly-buck, getting the foundations in as they have received.
You'll note huckly-buck is an engineering term.
I was wondering about that. I was like, what did I just hear?
Well, they've been able to take advantage of the great spring weather and got after thawing activities all through April, and because of lack of snow, the frost was deep, but we are down upwards of 20 foot in our deepest foundations now, hence the large piles of dirt staged around the site. So we're excited that they are kicking off construction activities. Construction activities means construction workers in the field, and the safety program is been submitted, approved, and I'm pleased to report is functioning well. I'm very pleased with the safety program manager for Price Gregory and Quanta and the safety culture they're promoting, because getting that off on the right foot. I will speak more to the budget in a second, but in short terms, we are under budget and on schedule. And item 4, at this time, there are no scope changes that have been approved. Item 5, change orders. We have 2 pending change orders. Change order 1 is administrative in nature, cleanup of a few technical terms, legal terms, aligning stuff that we agreed to do at contract signing. No cost changes. That is to be submitted to purchasing through Mr. Michaelis' office here soon for signing. Change order 2 is a placeholder, which is a bid option that was bid at time of contract approval to execute a second-year warranty at the bid amount of $290,000. We haven't executed that option, as we are still analyzing the value of that, meaning we couldn't say until the contractor chooses the type of pumps, fans, equipment, etc., because they do have options. We can't, if we want to see what they choose before we decide that we might want a second-year warranty because we've heard about this or that with this brand. But at this time, we're looking to probably make that decision this fall. So those are the only 2 pending change orders at this time. Sir?
Is there, if it's the appropriate time, is there a a contractual deadline for when that decision has to be made?
Good observation. In fact, that is being wrapped up in, it is 6 months from contract signing, which was December 12th. And we've addressed that, which is coming up here soon, saying that you haven't gotten far enough down the road for us to make a decision on this. Do you mind changing that deadline? And they've agreed to do that, and that is being wrapped up in change order 1. And Quanta has agreed to do that by end of year. So on to item 6, cost analysis, which I will show you on the following attachments. The following page, we can show that the chart on the following page that the cost is tracking the budget. As Mr. Vickers, Mr. Trent said, this the format is a little different. The all-in risk is EPC construction format. The contractor Quanta has spent and executed about $17 million worth of earned value that we are checking against what they bid against on a $200 million contract. And you can see the balance there. Separately, you might remember that the MOA purchased turbines in 2012 at a contract value there, and those turbines, the status of those they are to be on site by June 15th. These things are coming from various parts of the world. The generators are coming from Liverpool, England. They're somewhere over the Atlantic, coming through Panama Canal. The jet engines, prime movers, are in Cincinnati. Actually, tomorrow is a test run of those engines. Those will be trucked to Tacoma, and the balance of the equipment is coming out of Houston already on the road. Those 3 items are meeting up in Tacoma to be barged here to be on site June 15th. Just a little more information. And then our IEC contract is our owner's extension of MLP expertise to watch and guide the project. I couldn't have Mr. Griff Roush with us today to represent us. He will be here in the future, and he and his team is doing a great job to guide us, because you don't do this type of activity at a utility level all the time. Separately, under this under the IEC, under the construction contract, we specified for the owner to purchase the all builders risk insurance, given that the MOA has leverage at a higher dollar value to find a better rate, and we have used MOA risk manager and their contracts to get a very good rate, and that policy is in effect and has been paid. That is there. And the other expenses is everything else that is lesser contracts to date on the project. So I would like to, and the bottom line there is committed dollar value of just shy of $274 million. Next page is a chart that is breakdown of the largest contract, $199 million, of what they have bid and agreed to bill against and when, based on their schedule. So the blue bars is what I'm expecting to see. And if they deviate from that, we will very quickly see that they are behind schedule or ahead of schedule. Red bars is actuals, what they billed, and red bars is actually money that is left MOA, meaning there is a 45 to 60 day lag from the time they submit a bill, we check it and process it through. So as you can see, the red bar of roughly $7.5 million is March actual, slightly above March projected, due to the previous month actual was below February projected. So they had slipped a little bit on engineering, but you can see the very digital nature of the pay agreed upon pay schedule. So very quickly we're going to be seeing big bills because they're going to be in the ground doing a lot of work here this summer. Following page is the project look, the total project work order with all contracts, Quanta, GE, IEC, and other costs. And as you can see, we are under budget and and tracking the projected pay schedule. Topping out just at over $300 million for the whole project. Following page, I'm not going to go in detail. I had spoke about it. That's just contracts, change order details. You can follow up with questions if you may. And then I finish off the report with some recent pictures of the construction on site. With that, I'd like to entertain any questions or thoughts.
Nick?
So we're gonna go to 24-month schedule versus a 30-month schedule? I see that in here, and then those charts would all be different.
The answer to that is, we are not changing the schedule. They are telling us that it looks to them like they'll be able to be done in 24 months. The reason we're not changing the schedule is because contractually, right now, we give them X. If we change the schedule and allow 24 months, then we start taking a little bit of risk if they can't make that schedule. So we're leaving it like it is, and if they finish early, great.
Great on a lot of levels.
There's a lot of levels, there's a savings to us, et cetera, but right now, trying to force it may not be the right answer. So we consciously decided not to change the schedule. Let them go ahead and go with the original schedule that was proposed that we accepted.
Thank you.
I think that's very wise, actually. That was my thought. That was my knee-jerk reaction when I heard the question. I'm like, ah. A change order is always more expensive, and so are delays. But I do like your format as well. I like graphs. I like pictures. The pictures, that's nice, but the graphs especially, it helps you track for trending and stuff. So I do like that. The same request I had of the port, I would appreciate it if I could get this a day before, just so I have a chance to read it, so I can make educated comments.
We'll take care of that. We'll send it out a day before.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
I encourage you all, time permitting, visit the site. This is your project. Come out and see what we're doing. And as you do, be aware that we have a very stringent safety policy. Our motto here at MLNP, which is carried forward in all of our products, is no job is so important and no service is so urgent that we cannot take time to perform our work safely. And when you visit the site, you will not be allowed on the site until you go through a rudimentary safety procedure program to make sure you leave the site with all 10 fingers. Nothing's missing. So we're being very careful about that. So as you do come on the site, please come often. Be aware that we're very safety conscious.
I'd be happy to do that. I do drive by it every day, and I look every day.
Even though you're not a ratepayer, well, maybe we can.
Well, I'm in a different area. There's no MLNP out in my area.
I will forgive you this one time.
Actually, I'm trying to think. Any of us ratepayers? You are.
Yes.
Um,
He's our token ratepayer.
So is that Boulder
Only
going
one
to?
in the
Have
group.
to have one.
Well, it's a pretty small,
I mean,
your
we're out
quarter.
there hustling, buckling, getting this thing done, and we only got 2 ratepayers in here?
But you're an asset.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
And so is that boulder going to be used in your landscaping afterwards?
We thought we'd offer it to the assembly here for private use.
That has been discussed.
That would be really cool.
It would be neat up at the front, which does bring up so there is 1% for the arts through that committee.
I could, if it was just a little bit bigger, it'd be a good bouldering rock. It's not-
That's the kind of thing the sheet pile hit.
It's an ideal site for a plaque.
I keep forgetting, what's the power generation that we're hoping, the ultimate power
I
generation?
can't hear you. Can you speak up?
The ultimate power generation.
Okay.
From this project, 122 megawatts.
Well, thank you. If there's no other questions, this was a very easy day.
We can tie wind in with this.
Um,
That's another topic.
That's a, yeah. Another topic.
Please come visit the site. See what's
Bring it
going
down
on.
to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It might be, in fact, at some point, because there is some discussions as far as wind, et cetera. And I've always had the benefit of, through the Energy Task Force and other lives, understanding utilities. But I think it would be good at some point, we'll have a meeting, maybe even a committee of the whole with the assembly, just explain the business model of energy.
Madam Chairman, 4 o'clock today, I'm entertaining the wind people to negotiate an opportunity.
Right. But I'm just, I think it's
I
a
think that's a good
good, because utilities are different. And I think it would be a good thing for the assembly to understand, as I say, the business model and pluses and minuses of different kinds of generation and what, you know, what's interruptible, what's not interruptible.
We don't use that term.
What do we
Is
use?
that state one more time?
Intermittent?
Well, then you're talking about wind.
Yeah.
I can't control the wind, but what I can control is our power plants.
Right, no, I know. I'm just saying that the whole modeling and what's required. So we'll try to set that up just to have a,
If I could, so the mayor has had an initial meeting with Siri, and I think there's some subsequent meetings that may take place. But in addition to that, we're doing an analysis of what their proposal is. And so it might be a little bit premature to have the meeting before we have the analysis done.
Yeah.
So-
I would just, as I say, I was just looking for sort of a utility 101 because I think it's helpful.
Madam Chairman, utility 101 is simply this: keep the lights on.
Right.
It's pretty
Jennifer,
uncomplicated.
Amy has a question.
No, we want to turn them off frequently so that we save a little energy in there too.
Madam Chair, I think this may be the appropriate time to mention it since you and Mr. Michaelis are both here.
You have
But
disclosure on wind power?
no. But the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to go in and sit down with AWW and their board. And last year, Mr. Steele and I did it when we were new members. It was very, very beneficial just to understand how that utility worked. And so I've extended the offer to the two new members and we were going to try to arrange, you know, basically a good hour work session to understand the utility and the challenges that utility faces. But it may be something, as an enterprise chair, I'm happy for you if you would rather do that as a meeting of the whole, because I found it was incredibly valuable.
And actually, what we've done in the past and will continue to do is have joint meetings with the Port Commission, joint meetings with MLMP Commission, joint meetings with AWW. So that's a.
Well, maybe
can
we
do that.
could work together to
Yeah.
find a time in May, maybe, where we can invite the two new members
Yeah.
to an enterprise meeting.
No, that'd be.
They might not.
We have that opportunity. We promised not to use interesting terms like hucklebuck.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I did, before you came on board, and I did have the Chugach present their independent, shoot, the acronym just went out the window. Yeah,
Transco.
but it's not a it's a modified transco, just so folks understand, you know, what we have going on in the railroad.
Madam Chairman, we have some definite views on that.
I know, yeah, and we had the consultants here, so that side too. But I look at it statewide, and I look at it locally, and I look at it our assets. So there's three different ways of looking at that whole.
We welcome the opportunity to educate you further.
Right. But we do have a lot of co-ops, and we have a lot of people on this.
The uniqueness of this location is that there's so many independent utility organizations
Right.
struggling to remain independent.
Exactly. I mean, and we've tried various ways of coordinating that, and it has not worked yet.
I have one more question before we adjourn. Number one, I'm sorry, I'm struggling to hear, but.
I'm sorry, I'm mumbling.
No, she has a hearing problem.
I lost hearing in my left ear. Can you define to me what's a transcope? 'Cause-
What it would be is an independent body that would manage the transmission
Oh,
through the
yeah.
rail belt.
I've heard about that talked, I just never heard the term,
Yeah.
so, yeah, thank you.
Anyway, and as we get more IPPs, which is like the wind power, and we have more generation plants coming. I mean, you've got MEA putting one in, you've got Homer Electric put one in, you have Chugach and MLP.
Yeah, talks of the hydro project.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of, so how do you get on this transmission grid? It's not as hard for MLP because the model is, the power generation is really very close to its transmission lines, and MLP does not have much in the way of transmission, but the rest of the railroad is sort of helter-skelter, and how do you get all the wheels going in the same direction at the same speed?
How do you provide backup without excessive generation or excessive capacity?
Mr. Sir, it's not excessive generation, it's design generation to provide exactly that, backup at peak times.
Yeah.
And the Transco philosophy is predicated on the simple issue, independent service operator. None of our utilities, including ours, wishes to give up our independence.
Right.
So it's a great political football.
It is, and we have, but anyways, I presented it so folks could see what it was, so that there's an understanding, because
At
it's
your pleasure, we have some specific views on it.
Right.
Sure. Sure.
mainly because you could probably have a very small voice because you have very little transmission.
That's absolutely not true. LMP is the primary utility organization in this area. We are looking
No,
up
no,
to-
but I'm just saying that, you know, when it depends on how this board or however was created. But,
Interesting comment. I spoke to the board this morning on this very topic.
All right, Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
yeah. Sounds good.